Hey friends, thanks for joining me again. I was told that these are not called vlogs anymore, but what I'm doing is I'm sharing my blogs verbally. So please let me know what I should be calling this. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being gracious to me. These are pretty raw as I'm just stepping into this new world. But I'm excited because I'm in a series called COVID Questions, and we're exploring some whys. Last week I talked about after my liver transplant. So if you don't know my story, make sure to check it out on my blog. But after my liver transplant, I was consumed by the question of why. Why, God, did you let this happen? I felt like if I knew why this happened, then I could move forward, that I could get unstuck, that I could somehow move on with my life and find peace. Because my life no longer made sense. I could not understand why such an awful thing would happen to me. I was consumed by it. I was chasing after it with all that I had within me. And I thought, perfect. I'm at a Bible college. This is great. I should be able to find my answers. Well, if you've attended a Bible college, some of you may have different opinions, but it maybe wasn't the best place for me to be exploring my deep questions of why God causes or allows bad things to happen to good people. Anyway, so it was actually a really, really hard time for me because I really thought this was going to be a great place for me to explore my why. And a lot of people had a lot of ideas and opinions, but I had a really hard time receiving from them because a lot of them, and again, total judgment, 18-year-old traumatized at a Bible school, just keep the context. But I had a hard time really receiving from them because it seemed like their biggest struggle was a breakup with a boyfriend and girlfriend. I remember that between classes one day, I went to get a liver biopsy at the U of M and came back. And just hearing my classmates chatter and talk about their boyfriends and their homework and how stressed they were, I just wanted to scream. And now on the other side, I know that's all valid and very important, but at that time, it was really hard for me to receive. But I certainly had a lot of answers, and I'd love to share a couple with you. So, a first answer that people gave me for why bad things happen to good people is that God allows things to happen so he can be glorified and that people can see his glory and power. So, a great example of this is Lazarus. So Lazarus had two sisters, Mary and Martha. Anyway, won't go into too much, but they were really good friends with Jesus, and he was dying. So the sisters went to Jesus and said, Jesus, Jesus, you have to come. Lazarus is dying. So in John 11:4, Jesus says this. Well, when he heard this, Jesus said, this sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Super clear, super clear. So, as you can imagine, he did come eventually and raise Lazarus from the dead. And because of that, people really were in awe of God's glory and power. And I really related with this story for a long time. I identified really closely with Lazarus, and I still do to a degree. People went before God pleading that God would give me a liver. I had 12 hours to live, and people would plead on my behalf that God would provide a liver, just like Lazarus' sisters pleaded before God to come and save their brother. God waited till the last minute to give me a liver, just like Jesus went to Lazarus at the last minute, actually a little beyond the last minute. He was already dead to save him. And because of the close call it was for both Lazarus and for me, they were in awe of his power and his glory. And God was really glorified. And at first, I reveled in this. I reveled in being a miracle. I was a modern day's Lazarus, and I was so good at it. I was like, I got this. I would go to churches, and people had been praying for me. I would stand up, and people would clap for me, and I was like, this is great. I'm a great miracle. This is perfect. But do notice that we don't really hear anything else about Lazarus's life after. I cannot wait to meet him and talk to him because for me, being a miracle has actually been a huge challenge. That's another story for another day. But as much as I am grateful and I'm in awe of God's miracle in my life, the tension faded. The awe, the excitement, all the tension and question had faded. But you know what? I was still in pain and I was still struggling. And all of a sudden, that awe and all that attention did not line up to the pain that I was still experiencing. And so the answer, really, I started to struggle with it. The next answer I got often was that God allows bad things to happen to good people to develop perseverance and character. I don't know how many times James 1, 2, and 4 was quoted to me. Let me read it to you so you know. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking in anything. And I think we can recognize this is true. Most of the time on the other side of a struggle, if we've handled it even decently well, we do come out stronger. But there was a season in my life where I remember crying out to God, being like, is my character that bad? Because I'm talking about my transplant right now, but there's been a lot of challenges since. A lot of them are a result of my transplant. And I just remember feeling, if this is why you're allowing these things to happen, am I that horrible? I would look around at other people and I think, don't they need some character? Can't you bring a trial in their life? I think I've taken enough for the team. So that was hard. That was just hard for me. I was weary. And at some point I was just like, I just don't know what to do. I can't do this anymore, God. And like I said, I was like, is it that bad? Is my character that bad? The last answer that people gave me is that God sees the big picture and we don't. So we get it. Each person has a unique role to play in the world. We only have one role, and God sees the big picture, and he sees everyone's role in the world and how our actions affect other people, how our responses, our circumstances, our experiencing affect other people. And he sees it in ways that we will never see, which is very cool. But that might mean too that God's going to allow or cause, or whatever language you use there, something to happen to us that may be a victory for someone else. And that's a hard truth to swallow. And that was a hard truth for me to swallow. I believe all these answers are true. And even at the time, like I could feel that they were true. And for short seasons of my life, they satisfied my desire, my longing to know why. But long term, they just could not reach that place that cried out to God, why, God, are you allowing all this to happen to me? About 3 or 4 years ago, I came to another place, not with my health, but with some other things that I really came to God and cried out to him, why, once again, why, God? And I'd really come to a place of brokenness and just was crying out to God. And I felt like he confronted me in my spirit. And he said this, he said, is there an answer I could give you that would satisfy you? What if you actually never know why? Yikes. I feel like God was asking me, do you love me? Do you trust me enough to follow me even if you don't understand everything that has happened to you? I was at a place, it didn't happen overnight, but it did happen really quickly for me, where I came before the Lord and I said, I will surrender my why to you. I came to the place where I started to accept that I would never really know why certain things happened, but I could trust the one who knew the answers that I so deeply wanted. I don't want to make that sound simple. I think one of the disservices as Christians we do is we make very complex experiences sound simple. I lived in bondage of my why for 16 years, and my experience of surrender was profound, but it was 16 years in the making. It took me so long to get to this place, and I would love to walk with you to that place through this journey, no matter how long it takes for you to get to a place where you can surrender your why to God. I've mentioned this month, but every day after I post my blog, I'm following up with journal prompts and thoughts. And this week, I'm really trying to flesh out what that really means to surrender your why to God. What did that look like for me? I'm going to unpack some of that more. And what does that mean? I don't want to just throw a great concept out there. I really want to help you get to this place. So I encourage you to subscribe to my blog, lisadschmidt.com, just so you can get my emails, because I would love throughout the week to engage with you with some of these really hard questions. You guys, we are in this together. I have loved engaging in this topic of why with you. So please reach out. I would love to hear your story. I would love to walk with you. We're going to get through this, and we're getting better, and we're going to be better on the other side.